Hello, everyone. I am Rodney C. Flowers, and welcome to the Inspiring Leadership series. I want to hand you over to our host, Jonathan Bowman-Perks.
Thank you very much indeed, Rodney. Now, Rodney, you are an amazing guy. You've done so much in your life. But just before we go back in your life story, tell us what you're doing now, the kind of roles you've been doing over the last couple of years. I'm really interested.
Yeah, man. So I've been doing a lot, and it includes, first of all, just driving the business forward, inspirational endeavors, and the game changer mentality brand, helping people change the game, change their mentality towards their obstacles and challenges that they have in life. And I have a plethora of products and services and ideas that I share with people around that philosophy. And I'm also a facilitator with Nivel X. I'm in a leadership development program, and part of that program requires you to do a rotation. And so I am on rotation with the Naval X agency with the Navy. And what we do is we help the Navy change its thinking. And what we mean by that is we want to change the culture of the Navy. We want to be more innovative and foster creative thinking so that we can come up with new solutions to problems and constraints that we may be facing. We don't just want to accept those things, but think about new innovative ways that we can solve those problems and do what we do quicker, better, faster. And so I'm one of the lead facilitators there, and I'm having a ball, man. I'm loving what I'm doing. It's challenging and exciting all at the same time, and it's really helping me hone my skills as a leader.
Great, great. Well, I know they'll be very lucky to have you. And particularly, I found you listening to your podcasts and being on it, a hugely motivational guy. And you're interested in other people and what makes them tick and how to motivate them. What was it in your life? Take me right back to when you were first born, events that happened for you during your life, people that you helped you grow up, that gave you the values and the motivation that I find in this amazing man, Rodney C. Flowers today. What was it that happened? Tell us a little bit. Take a bit of time.
Wow. Yeah. So go all the way back to when I was born. Yeah, that's a story in and of itself. But I was the only male out of, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 grandchildren that my grandmother had. And I was the only male until I was about 18. So I was really spoiled by my grandmother because I was her grandbaby boy. And I was raised by my grandmother. My mom had me when I was like 17 years old. And she had some responsibilities that she needed to take care of. And so what that did was, it caused my grandmother to raise me. And so part of that journey left me in a lot of isolation. I mean, I was around my cousins and all of that, but because I was the only boy, I didn't spend as much time as I would have liked with the girls. The girls was off playing with baby dolls, and they didn't want me playing with baby dolls and things like that. So I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and it was really just me and her. But what that did was sort of made me the man of the house. And as I was growing up, she taught me a lot of responsibility about being the man of the house and helping her take care of things that she needed to do. I was outside, doing a lot of things on the farm. She owned a mini farm, and I was just doing those types of things, getting up early, going out, taking care of the animals, gathering crops and helping her plant crops and take care of her stuff. And it was one of those things where at the time it seemed unfair because my father wasn't really in my life, and I was raised by my grandmother, and I had these times where I can go have fun and be with my cousins and things like that. But then the majority of the time it was just me and my grandmother, and so there was this sense of isolation that I had growing up, and then there was a lot of work involved, and I started to get a lot of pride in the work that seemed to make me feel better. And my grandmother was always good with helping me. That's my baby's grandbaby, and he's smart and all of those things. And she was teaching me how to work hard. And so, I did that until I was about between 7 and 9 years old. And then I went to live with my mom, and my mom got married, and I met my stepfather, whom at the time I didn't really care for, and we had some bumps in the road. But not long after that, from 9 to 15, I started loving the game of football. And I started working out, and I started being more attentive to my body and what it would take to, be a star in the game of football, to play high school football. I started developing this vision of what an NFL player would look like and how can I accomplish that. And so I fell in love with football. I started playing for my schools, and it became sort of a compass for me. I mean, that's why I wanted to do good. I wanted to make good grades and make sure I stayed eligible to play ball. And I spent a lot of time in the gym, working out, getting my body prepared, studying the game. And this was because I had this hunger, and I really don't know where this came from. I had an uncle who was a bodybuilder. And so I learned a lot about fitness and how to take care of the body, how to grow muscles and things like that by one of my uncles. And he was a professional bodybuilder. And I wanted to have that sense of accomplishment in my life. And so that created some type of drive in me that I didn't realize I had until, later on in life. But I was really focused on football. And then during the first game of my sophomore year, I had been playing football for a year or so, a couple of years, and I was in high school, and it was the first game of the season. And this year was like a breakout season for me. I wanted to really show the scouts and everyone that, I was really good. And during that first game, we kicked the ball off to start the second half of the game, and I had been having a really good game. And I wanted to make a play. I wanted to continue having a good game. And we kicked the ball off. I ran down the field fast as I could. The kick returner caught the ball, started heading back into my direction. And then boom, I hit him. He went down. And then I went down. But I couldn't get back up. Trainers, my mom, and others ran out onto the field. And they were yelling, "Rodney, get back up, get back up." And I couldn't get back up. My brain was going through the process of getting back up. And I could feel myself getting up, but I wasn't actually moving, which is a really scary thing, man. And, they put me on an ambulance, rushed me to the regional medical center, and started doing all kinds of tests. And I remember just like yesterday, I was lying on my back, cutting all my gear off. And my stepdad was standing over top of me in the emergency room while they're cutting this stuff off of me and evaluated me. And he looked at me. And I couldn't see what the doctors were doing because my head was strapped down and all I could see was sort of straight up. And he leaned over and he said, "Can you feel what they're doing to you?" And I said, "No, what are they doing?" He said, "They're cutting the bottom of your feet. Your feet are bleeding." And at that point, I just knew that my life was going to be different from here on out. This was severe because I couldn't feel any of that. Tears started rolling. I started bawling. It's just in pain and fear, not physical pain, but just emotional pain and fear just took over. And they realized that my injury was too severe to treat there at that medical center. So they rushed me to the helicopter, one of those transporting medevacs. Took me to Duke University Medical Center. They evaluated me some more. And the next day, a team of neurologists, they visited my room and told my family and I that I was paralyzed from the neck down. And I had a 92% chance of remaining that way and to prepare for, life in this capacity forever. This would be it. There was no surgery, no expectation of recovery. I had bruised my spinal cord, and not only did I bruise it, but there was compression and swelling, and that caused even more damage. And they didn't think that there was nothing they can do. I mean, they did some things to treat the swelling, but there was nothing they could do to treat the damage. There was nerve damage. And so, we had to accept that. It was a hard pill to swallow. And life continued. We went to therapy and we started working on recovery, getting the adaptive equipment and all that stuff that I needed. And yeah, it was just a tough time. It really was. And I wasn't pleasant to be around. I was sort of mad at the world. I was mad at God. Like, why did this happen to me? I was upset. I was hurt. And I really couldn't see my way for a while. I was sort of lost. And then a couple of years went by, and there was a series of emotions, a series of experiences. And I talk about these in my book called Get Up. I Can't, I Will, I Did. Here's how. It really dictates the journey from that point to where I started walking again. But, I had given up. And the thing that turned things around for me was a couple of things. I had a good support group. My family was very spiritual. And I had some folks back home that rallied around me. They prayed for me. They believed with me and for me. And God played a real big role for me. I got to a point later where I realized that, it's funny how when things happen to you in your life like this, you become more spiritual. You start to develop the spiritual side of you. You start looking for, when you have nowhere to go and you can't get what you need from a doctor or medicine or procedure, when the only thing that you could do is sort of focus on the infinite power, you begin to look in that space and you begin to find some sense of hope. And that's what happened to me. And the turning point was, Jonathan, I tell you, I just want to pause because my computer's just going off here.
That's okay.
All right.
What was the turning point for you?
Yeah, so the turning point was one day I was lying in bed and I was in pain. And again, I wasn't in physical pain. I was in emotional pain, because that vision that I had for myself of playing football and the joy that I got out of playing football and the idea of being an adult and finally getting to be independent and everything that a 15-year-old would think about as he's anticipating the next few years of his life approaching adulthood was shattered for me. And that was very painful. And, I remember lying in bed and asking myself, like, why are you in pain? And it was kind of funny because I couldn't feel anything. So I was really being comical with myself. Like, you're lying in bed and you're crying and you're hurting, but you can't feel anything physically. And I was in isolation because I felt that no one understood what I was going through. And it took me back to when I was raised by my grandmother. And I just started to go internal. I started to go in. And I started asking myself questions like, well, if you can't feel anything, why are you really hurting? And when I asked that question, the answer was because of what I felt like I was losing, what I wasn't going to get to experience. And the next question was, well, what could you do to make yourself feel better, to ease the pain? And I accepted that, hey, things are going to be different, but what can you do to ease the pain? And the honest answer to myself was, you can have a better attitude. We can start there because your attitude is funky, man. You are not pleasant to be around. People have to come and help you, take care of you, and you are causing that to be a horrible experience because of your attitude. So what if you just changed that? And that was not such a horrible experience. That's just adding to the misery. And so I had to be real with myself. And that's what I call authenticity. It's not being your real self, it's being real with yourself. And so I was real with myself. And I asked myself more questions. What else could you do? And I started realizing that you could try, you could have more faith, you can believe, you can, all of those things. And so I kept going, and I kept being authentic. And I got to the point where I asked myself, what else could you do? And I said, well, I could walk again, potentially, maybe. I could try to overcome. And by overcoming, I could accomplish something. And I don't know, maybe by some slim chance, I walk again. And then I said, okay, well, what would that look like? How would that make you feel? Would it make you feel better? And I'm like, yeah. As a matter of fact, if I did that, that would be really inspiring. That would change the game. That could be very impactful for people. Matter of fact, that would be bigger than playing football. Like, even if I became a star in football, that would not compare to being a person that went through something like this, overcame it, and now that is an example of what's possible for people. Mm-hmm. And that became my vision. It replaced football. It replaced what I felt like I lost. And I held on to that. Like, that was my picture. And I told myself that I have nothing to lose to go after this. If I pull this off, this is what life will look like. And even if I don't make it, like, it was my moonshot, but I was willing to take the moonshot because I said, if I don't make it, it's going to be better than where I am right now. I don't know what it would look like. I don't know how far I can go. I'm going to try to go all the way. But even if I miss, it's going to be better than where I am right now. So why not do that? And that's where the whole, walk or die trying mentality came in. It was like, I'm going to do this or I'm going to die trying. Like, I committed and dedicated my life to that because that was like the opportunity that I seen in such a traumatic experience. And I realized that what I thought was causing my pain was really the greatest opportunity of my life.
Wow. And people can't see, and maybe they're listening on a podcast, Rodney. But today, are you in a wheelchair? Do you have crutches, or can you actually walk?
Man, I just finished my workout. I just finished walking half a mile on the elliptical, another half a mile up and down a hill that's right outside my house.
Wow. Awesome. That is way more inspirational than being an NFL footballer. And I really, really admire you for that. I had a rather eccentric aunt who had an operation that went wrong. It paralyzed her. She was told she'd never walk again. And she, like you, got a mindset, and she got a tricycle. And each day she tried to turn the pedal just an inch or two.
Yeah.
Day after day, week after week, month after month, until eventually she could turn a full rotation. And eventually she was cycling up and down her driveway and then around the village, and never properly walked well because she was a very old lady. But she cycled around and everybody admired her for it. And I have massive admiration, Rodney. So, Rodney, thank you for that. Let's go through some other aspects, some quick fire questions. Perhaps the first ones, apart from that major event when you were paralyzed at age around 15, which was life-changing, what's been a high point of your life and something you learned from it? And what's been another dark moment of your life? And what did you learn from that, which others could learn from you? Just briefly in those two cases.
Well, the darkest moment of my life was when I was lying out there on the field, broken, and not knowing what my future was going to be like, and realizing that vision that I had where I wanted to go in life, what I thought was going to happen for me, was taken away. And now I'm sort of dealt with this challenge, this obstacle that is seemingly insurmountable. And that was the toughest time ever in my life. I've never experienced anything as tough as that. And the thing about it is, it wasn't tough from it was tough from a physical standpoint, but it was more so mental, and spiritual. It was really and emotional, really tough. And at the same time, I gotta say, that has been the most inspiring time of my life, because by being willing to go through that process, I've learned so much about myself and learned so much about challenges in general and how we as individuals have the ability to approach these challenges with a certain mindset that will allow us to get everything that is there for us to get from being in a process of trying to overcome something, especially something that is seemingly very difficult and challenging. I've learned that the challenge in and of itself is an opportunity for you to outperform it. We think a lot of times that the challenge is something that's stopping us, it's causing resistance and discomfort in our life. But it's more so an invitation for you to expand beyond your current status quo. It takes a certain mindset to sort of get that. But once you get it, there is no challenge on earth that can approach you and defeat you mentally, because your approach is always, who am I in this? What can I do in this? And so when you start taking responsibility for what happens to you in your life, your mentality is more so not what has happened to you, but what happens for you. And when you're thinking about what's happening for you, you start looking at, what are the opportunities for me to improve? What are the opportunities for me to expand? What are the opportunities for me to do differently? And as leaders, we should always look for those opportunities, because we're always looking to get to the next level, looking to expand our minds to be bigger and better leaders for purposes of serving, for purposes of contributing, for purposes of leading, showing people the way. And so when you can approach a challenge that way, you're sort of taking the lead on, hey, this is how we get through this. And you're putting yourself in that position to gather information about who you are, who you need to be in order to expand beyond what's currently in front of you.
Brilliant.
And that has been the most liberating thing for me, because now I don't feel like something that comes up in my life that's challenging or difficult is going to stop me. I feel like it's here for me to raise my awareness on maybe where I'm falling short, where I can improve, where I can get better. Because once I do those things, then the challenge isn't a challenge anymore. It's something that I've overcome. I've gotten to the next level. I just had to figure it out. And maybe that slowed me down for a little while, because it exposed my weaknesses. It made me realize I needed to go back, be more humble. I needed to check my attitude. I needed to learn something different. I needed a different approach. I needed to expand my awareness. And now when I do that, this challenge doesn't stop me anymore. I'm beyond it. But I got to be willing to go through that process of discovery and learning in order to expand beyond the obstacle. And so the best thing that we can do when there's a challenge that shows up is look beyond it. What is the vision beyond it? Like, what are the possibilities here? What is this trying to show me, instead of how is this stopping me? And so we need to get, become inquisitive, get in a discovery mode whenever the challenge shows up, because there's something there that could potentially be the answer to get you beyond it.
Lovely. I just so love that, and a whole attitude towards resilience and overcoming adversity. So from that dark moment of lying out there on the field broken, and that dream of being an NFL player, doing all that weight training with your uncle as your aspiration, and here you are now later in life at 42, back from that time at 15, when you got a great physique, you're working out, you're doing all this walking. Awesome, really inspiring. What's been the happiest, the most proudest moment of your life, and what did you learn from the high points as much as the low points?
I just recently had a very proud moment in my life, and I want to tell you about that one. I had increased my walking from once a week, walking up this hill. There's a hill right outside my house, and up and down this hill is about half a mile, and it's a huge, steep like this. This hill is very challenging. And I was walking this hill once a week, because after I do it, it took a lot for my body to recover. And so now I'm pushing it. I'm pushing the edge. So I wanted to go to three times a week walking this hill. And when I made that decision, Monday came around. I went from instead of walking on Wednesdays, I walk Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So Monday came around right after I made that decision. And It was a long weekend. I was tired. I did my workout. I started on the walk. I didn't feel like going, but I pushed myself. I started walking down the hill, up the hill, and I fell. Had a decision to make. Are you going to keep going or are you going to stop? Because obviously you're not feeling it. This is new. It's different. What are you going to do? But I kept going. Got up after the fall. I kept going. I started walking up the hill. And it was funny because there was this guy that was coming down the hill. And we meet. And he says, I was going to take the shortcut until I saw you walking up this hill on crutches. And once I seen you, I realized I can't take the shortcut. This guy's out here on crutches walking up this hill. And I said, look, man, there's no shortcuts in life. Whenever you take shortcuts, you shortcut yourself.
Wow.
And for me, that meant a whole lot. It was a really high moment in my life because I have devoted myself to being an example of what's possible for people. That's what this, I've created from going through this experience and being a person that's going to overcome it. The reason why I do that is because I want to be an example of what's possible for people.
Yeah.
And so for this guy to see me on this hill walking it and to say, I was going to take a shortcut, but now I'm not because I see you're out here. It's harder for you, but you're still doing it. Whenever that possibility for him to take a shortcut in life comes up again, he's going to remember that. And that's a high point for me because I couldn't have been there. And this guy would have took the shortcut and he may have continued to take shortcuts in his life. Yeah. But because I was on the hill, even when I didn't want to be, this guy's not going to take shortcuts anymore.
Brilliant. And for me now, those stories, I mean, there's no doubt about it. You're a very inspirational, motivational speaker, but there's no doubt about it. Stories are very powerful and you have a great way of telling stories. I will always remember that. And being on the hill takes me back to when I was in airborne training. And as an officer, when you were training with the men, they'd give the men a rest and they'd send the officers up what they called Heartbreak Hill. And this is your Heartbreak Hill. And they would send us up again and again and again. And if you wanted to give up, you could give up. Just jack in, leave. You'll never get your red beret. You'll never get your parachute wings. Just go. And I just so admire you. And I will always remember, walk the hill and don't take the shortcut. So thank you for that. Let's go round the Inspiring Leadership Compass. There's 8 elements. I'd just be interested in some tips for the audience from your experience, Rodney, about these 8 elements of what makes high-performing leaders and people successful in life and in work. The first one is your moral quotient, MQ. What would you say your top 3 fundamental moral values that have taken you through this toughest of all challenges, almost like your moonshot? What would be your 3 values that you would recommend to others?
First of all, as a leader, we got to understand it's not about us. That has been the driving force. I do what I do because of the impact that it can have for other people. I believe that our lives are purposeful and we're not here just for ourselves, although we get to enjoy a lot of things. But the thing that you leave behind is the impact that you've had on the life that you've lived, your service, your contributions, the differences that you've made. And so when we wake up every day, we got to realize we're not waking up just to enjoy the pleasures of being an individual in this world. We have a responsibility. Like life has given us a gift. And for me, the question is, what are you going to give back to life during your time here? And so your service, your contribution is very important. And I think you should wake up every day understanding why you are here and who you serve, what your contribution is. And every day you give it 120% to bring that forward. That's the first thing. Yeah. The second thing is discipline. Discipline has played a very large role in my life. Like if I didn't have discipline, I wouldn't be walking the hill. I wouldn't have walked again. When I went to check in with my doctors, I would keep going back and forth over the years. I mean, you're talking a span of 18 years from the time that I got injured to the time that I started walking independently. And I would go back to the doctors repeatedly, say, hey, what about, hey, look how well I'm doing now. Can we do surgery? Is there something we can do? And they would say no, over and over and over again, until one day they said yes. And the reason why they said yes, they said, look, this is what we're going to do. This isn't what's going to make you walk again. We're just going to ease a symptom that's going to allow you to be more mobile. But it's your work that you've been putting in over these years that have allowed you to be as strong as you are. That is what is allowing you to be in the position that you are to walk again. And so having that discipline is very important. And the third thing is being willing to do things that you don't want to do. And this is a continuation of the discipline. A lot of times we want to do things that make us feel good. We don't want to be uncomfortable. As leaders, we have to be uncomfortable. And that really ties back to our contribution in our service. If we're not willing to be uncomfortable, we're not only hurting ourselves, we are hurting those people that could benefit from us going through uncomfortable things and getting to the other side of it.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to take that on as a leader, then you have to question who you are as a leader. And so those things for me, those are my models.
Yeah.
That's what I follow every single day.
I really love that. And particularly the discipline, which obviously as a military man for 20 years before business, discipline has been fundamental in those days, doing some of the toughest things. But also it serves me now as I'm 60 to keep going in like I did to the gym the other day and to do the yoga each morning, because it's so easy not to bother, or a healthy diet or getting up and walking or whatever it might be. I really relate to that. And you've tied together beautifully what I would call element one, element two, what gives your life meaning and purpose, PQ, but with your values as well. So you've covered two already, which is great. Let's go on to health quotient. Health and getting your health back, your mental and your physical health. What tip would you give for mental health that's worked for you, but might help others? And one tip for physical health?
So for mental health is, I practice a lot of self-care. I do. And what I mean by that is, could you excuse me? Let's pause for 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I've done a lot of practicing self-care. And what I mean by that, you can imagine how mentally straining going through an injury like this at 15 years old is. And then continuing to deal with it, having to go back to school, having to deal with society, go into a work environment, become a leader with what many people call as a disability. I've been labeled as disabled, and I'm here trying to accomplish everything that I've accomplished to defy that, to overcome that. And so it has required me to be strong mentally. And the only way that I have been able to be strong mentally is to be kind to myself, to practice a lot of, positive self-talk, to see myself as someone beyond how society sees me when they see my chair, they see my crutches, to see myself as a contributing member, able to bring about change and impact to people and understand what my purpose is, understand what I have to give and my values and why it's important that I keep going. And so I keep talking to myself in this manner. And because I know that that's my responsibility and my privilege, I be good to me. If society isn't going to be good to me, I'm going to be good to me. I'm going to see me as that individual. Even though I'm holding myself accountable at a high level, I'm still good to me, and I'm kind to myself. And I practice a lot of just, meditation, giving myself space, allowing myself to feel. I cry when it's time to cry, and I understand that the reasoning and the purpose behind that. And so, there's a time to be tough and aggressive, and then there's a time to allow myself to feel what it feels like to deal with this. And I allow myself to do it. And so that's what I mean when I say self-care.
That's very good. And what tip would you give about, clearly working out with weights and things is still an important part of yours?
Here's the thing. Yeah. So I believe a person should wake up every single day and tackle something that they don't want to do. Okay. You know, I'm a Leo, and I consider, you know, I take on the characteristics of a lion. That's my thing. And so I wake up every day and I feel like I need to hunt something and kill it. And for me, that's a 4 a.m. wake up and a 5 a.m. workout start.
Wow.
That's me being on the hunt, and I'm going to kill this workout. And that gets me going every single day. And the reason why I think, you know, the workout and the physical aspects of, you know, taking care of your body, being physically in shape, is so important. And it's important for me in the morning because it gets me going. Like when I can wake up and I can tackle something. And I've done tackled my cardio, I've tackled my weight training, I've tackled the heel. I'm in the momentum of tackling things and killing it and hunting it down. And so now, you know, I've already accomplished something by 7 a.m. And some people are just rolling over. They're not even like, they're just having that second cup of coffee. But for me, I've already like, I've challenged my body and overcome already in the morning. So now it's for me, it's what's the next challenge? What's the next thing that I'm going to go and tackle? And so that starts some momentum going for me every single day.
That's brilliant. And sleep is also massively important for the anti-inflammatory lifestyle.
Sure.
So if you're up at 4 a.m., what time are you going to sleep?
Yeah. So to be completely transparent and vulnerable here and authentic, that is an area that I'm working on because, you know, I love my work. I love what I do. And I think it's important. So I don't always get that nighttime rest that I need. Like
what time do you get to bed?
5 and 6 hours of sleep. So around 10:30 is when
so here's my tip to you. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker is a very good book. That's my book for you. And the other one is the circadian rhythm, the circadian code. Circadian code, which I'm listening to at the moment, because the danger is that with 5 to 6 hours sleep, you're setting yourself up for Alzheimer's at 50 or 60, because you're not getting the cerebral wash of your brain to clear all the beta amyloid, which is a toxic protein, like not cleaning your teeth really, because you've not given it enough sleep. So however you work it out, please try and get yourself minimum 7 hours sleep a night. It will make a fundamental difference to 30% more performance the next day, 30%. And that's worth fighting for. So that's just that's my from one colleague to another.
Absolutely.
And I really respect it. And then from health quotient to EQ, your emotional intelligence. What one tip would you give that's helped you? Because you've got a lovely way with people, but what's one tip that's helped you make a connection of rapport with people? What would be the tip you'd teach others who maybe are a bit bullish and they don't read other people and they're not aware of their impact so much? You talk about impact on others, but what
self-regulation? Self-regulation, man. Self-regulation. You know, we constantly are in this fight or flight mode. Sometimes even when we meet people, we're in a place where we find ourselves uncomfortable. We're in that place where we're in an emotional panic. So we don't know what to do. We don't really consciously behave. We behave out of reaction. You know, it's just, you know, we just do it. And then we go back and we say, oh, if I could do that again, this is what I would do. Or this is what I would say, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of that is we're just not present. We're not in a place of calm where we can think clearly and not react, but respond intentionally. And so self-regulation has been a big emotional intelligence lifesaver for me, because when I'm able to keep myself in a place of calm, I can think differently. I can think more powerfully, and I can behave and sort of respond to things that come up in my life more powerfully because I'm present with it. And this is challenging because a lot of times we think we're present, but we're really not. And so I've gotten good at being present because I've spent a lot of time in meditation, and I've learned how to calm myself. Because a lot of times we get in those places where, we're in a panic. We think the worst thing is going to happen is, and all these questions, what about this and and the judgments, and it's like, stop, just stop all of that and just breathe and put yourself in a place of calm and presence. You'll find that when you're in a place of presence, all of those things that you were thinking, it just doesn't happen. They're just distractions to you thinking properly.
Very good.
And when you can bring it all back in a place of calm, you can find more powerful ways of being.
Yeah. Well, here's one for you. There is an app called Calm. It's one of my meditation apps, and I always have a 25-minute power nap. I had one before we came onto this series. Midday, around about 1 o'clock, I have a power nap. And for the first 10 minutes, I listen to Calm. And they have some lovely voices of actors and various people who do sleep stories for people, which really calms and relaxes them. You should do one of those. You've got the most lovely voice to listen to. My wife and all her friends would love listening to your audio, I'm sure. Yeah. You've got this honey-like voice, and it's great. So let's go on to the next element, CQ, which is cultural intelligence or collective intelligence.
Yeah.
But cultural intelligence really is at the base of it is diversity, equality, and inclusion, Absolutely. Which was Absolutely. Never really in many leadership programs, even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But you've experienced, from what we've talked about before, people have been exclusive, or that there's been some racism, or whatever it might be. What's your one tip about being more culturally accepting of difference and different people to you?
Here's my message to people. All right. And maybe this has something to do with my sports background. Okay. But in sports, there's different roles in a game, different positions that have to be filled. And when you have a team that can perform all of those different roles, you have a better shot at winning. If you're not good in one of those roles, then your team is at risk of losing because there's a weakness. And so I said that to say this: there's different flavors and colors within the team members in this game of life. You have, people from different cultures, different nationalities, blah, 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 blah. You have all of that. But we're all wanting the same thing. We all want happiness. We want peace. We want love. We want to be heard. We want to make a difference. We want to live a good life. We all want the same thing. We all have different approaches and ideas about how to get there. And that's okay. That's just different experiences. And we should invite those in because, listen, I don't know what your experience is as a white man, but I'm sure that there's things that you've learned along your journey, that could be beneficial to how I play the game. You don't know mine, but I'm telling you some things right now about what I've learned. And these things may be things that you can take with you and play your game, fulfill your role, make you a better player in this game. And so we have to understand that we can't hold another nationality or a different culture or anything like that. We can't hold it down, because when we do that, we are hurting ourselves. It's like the team imploding in on itself. It's ludicrous. We have to lift each other up, and we have to learn. We have to allow people to express themselves for who they are, because it is a wonderful creation by God or the universe or whatever you feel that higher power is that has created everything. And if it's created, it is here for a purpose. So allow it to flourish and foster, and then talk to it, get to know it, learn about it, understand it, and find out how it can be not only beneficial for you, but beneficial for everyone. Because I think we all have a story. We all have experience. We all have an expression. We all have a voice, and we're all here for the same thing. So we have to work together collectively to win collectively. If we're going to try to defeat each other in one win, that is an illusion. That's just isn't possible. Because even if you feel like you win, because you've left this experience this culture, these ideas and philosophies behind, you haven't really won. You just accomplished a certain level without that, but you will never get to understand or experience what it would be like to accomplish with all of that. And that is something that we should work for.
I love that. Really powerful. Thank you, Rodney. And the next one on round is, we've got resilience, then brand, then legacy. Resilience, the whole of your talk and your life experience is one big story of resilience against adversity. So I'll hold that. I'll move on to brand next, because we've got some great.
Sure.
What have you learned about your own brand, your reputation, your image, your impact, and how do you get 360 feedback? I mean, you're on a course at the moment. So does it include 360 feedback? And what do you encourage people to do by way of getting feedback from others, so they're not deluding themselves in an ego chamber?
Well, we have to seek it. I think you have to ask tough questions from people that you know and trust, and be willing to hear, the truth. I have mentors in my life, and I have other people in my life that I can go to, and I say, hey, how am I doing? And we want to be in a constant state of self-evaluation, not self-judgment, but self-evaluation, because you always want to be 10% better than where you are. You always want to be striving for more, striving to expand. And the only way you can expand is you meet yourself where you are and understand where you're falling short, what the shortcomings are, and how you can improve. What are the areas of improvement? And seek continuous improvement. Like, you never get to a pinnacle and you stop. Like, always keep the pressure on, in my opinion. A lot of times, you see some people, and they get in these big positions, and then their egos, it's like, yeah, I'm this, and I'm in this position now. It's like I've arrived. You never arrive.
No,
you never arrive. Like, even at the highest position of an organization, there's still yet something for you to learn, another level for you to get to. And it's going to take some level of development and a process that you have to go through. That's challenging, that's opening up new ways of thinking and being for you, and being willing to, put yourself in those situations so that process can happen. We have to be willing to do that.
That's brilliant. And you remind me of another guest I had on recently, and she said about, raise the ceiling, keep looking for what people are doing well and encourage them and lift them, but also raise the floor. Be prepared to think, how can I do this even better and even better? What's the areas I can improve? Don't delude yourself that there's no room to learn and grow. Legacy. What would you like when it comes that you die? What would you like your legacy to have been, Rodney C. Flowers?
Well, I want to change the mentality of individuals regarding their approach to challenges and obstacles that show up in our lives. I want my legacy to be that we don't look at challenges the same as something that's stopping us or holding us back. We actually invite them in, because we know that that's game time. Like, this is what we've prepared for. We've built up resilience, and these challenges and obstacles are what's going to make us better. This is the squeeze that we need in order to pull out the juice that's within us.
I can see why you're a good motivational speaker. The squeeze we need. I love it. You've got poetry, man, in the way you speak. I love it. So you work a lot with teams. When you've been advising people or been in teams which are toxic and you need to make them high performing, what one tip, because there's many tips, but if you were to give one good tip about turning a team around from it being toxic to being high performing, what tip would you give people?
I would say allow voices to be heard. I really would. If the team is toxic, it's probably because we're not allowing our voices to be heard. I think we have to take a step back and listen and be more inclusive. Because I think when we're inclusive and we're open to new ideas from everyone on the team, then people can feel open to speak. They feel trusted. They feel like they are valued. And when you have people feeling that way, they're willing to contribute and express more. And it makes for a more cohesive, well-rounded team. So whenever there's toxicity, then we want to start looking at our people. How are we treating our people? How are they feeling? Is there trust? Are people being heard? Are people open? Do we have a vehicle to gather ideas and hear those voices among the team? And so that's where we want to step back and make sure we have that.
Brilliant. Love it. And then the last question before we go into your 2-minute top tip. Your favorite book on leadership or something you've read recently that you would recommend. You actually expanded it. As always, you expand everything, Rodney, to include 2 books I think you like. Do you want to just tell us what those 2 books are? And in a little nutshell, just what's so good about those books, what people would get from them?
Well, I think Cast by Isabel Wilkerson is a book that we all should read, especially now when there's so much chatter about social unrest and diversity and inclusion. Cast is really about the system, the caste system that is present among, minorities. That's the sort of puts them at a disadvantage. And I think people, especially leaders, need to understand that because it allows them to see unconscious biases that we all may have. And it creates a perspective that you may not have realized that is present for minorities and how it benefits the majority. And you may not even realize how this happens, because we're not present to the system. So I think reading that book as a leader, especially someone who's, is really adamant about making sure they have a very diverse and inclusive team or organization, needs to be aware of some of these barriers that exist within, teams and organizations and in our society. So I think that's a really good book that one should read. And the next one is Relentless by Tim S. Grover. And Tim really talks about, he trained Kobe Bryant and he trained Michael Jordan. And he talks about, how we can be relentless or how to be relentless and how to utilize your dark side to overcome limitations, mental and physical limitations. And I think as a leader, we all get to that space where we feel like we've hit the ceiling. And, how do I go beyond this point? How do I get over the edge? How do I get to the peak? How do I take my team to the peak? And so reading that book about how we can go to a space that perhaps we haven't been before in order to accomplish things that seem insurmountable or we haven't accomplished before is a good tool to have in your toolbox.
Lovely. I love those. And I'll get both. I'm dyslexic, so I listen to it as audiobooks. So I'll listen to both of those, Relentless and Cast.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So would you, for the final 2 minutes, introduce yourself, the kind of work you do, and then share that game changer mentality, which I find so utterly inspirational. So Rodney, over to you.
Absolutely. So my name is Rodney Flowers, bestselling author, keynote speaker, and resilience trainer. And I am the creator of the Game Changer Mentality brand. And what that means is, my philosophy is, I believe if you're alive, then you are on the field of adversity in the game of life. And so what that means for you is that you are going to face opposition. You're going to face challenges. It's something that we all have in common, whether you're Black, white, rich, poor, doesn't matter what nationality you are. We all, as human beings, are going to face challenges and opposition. So the question is, who are we going to be? What approach are we going to take towards the challenges and obstacles that show up? And that's where game changer mentality comes in. Because in my philosophy, I teach you how to have an approach towards challenges and opportunities. Challenges and obstacles where you see the opportunity. It's not about what the challenge is doing to you. It's more so what it's doing for you and how is this providing an opportunity for you to improve, for you to grow. And the reason why that's important is because we all have roles in this life. There's a purpose that you are here. There's something about you that the universe needs, that God needs, that the people need. And we need you to bring that forward. And perhaps there's challenges and obstacles that's holding you back. Well, I'll show you how to get over that to the next phase so that you can express yourself. And the reason why that's important, because you are on our team. And we need you to score, because when you score, we all score. If you lose, we all lose. And so we're in this thing together. And so I invite you to adopt the game changer mentality.
Rodney, thank you. I'm on your team, definitely. And I recommend both your book and your whole approach to people who are listening. Thank you very much for being on this Inspiring Leadership series. You really inspired us all. Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for having me.